Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another training session in SAP. This is Adiele, Kelechi, your SAP consultant. We have actually been on a series of training. We'll be looking at the master data in SAP, of course, around the FI module. We have in subsequent videos looked at the accounts receivable, looked at creating the customer master data. We looked at creating an invoice, receiving payments, and also line item analysis. In this video, we're actually going to look at, we have done videos on the vendor master data. So for this time, we're going to be looking at vendor invoice, processing vendor invoice in SAP, of course the FI module, because we have a lot of modules in SAP. But for this activity, we're going to be focusing on the FI side. Now, please, you can reach me through my email. You can WhatsApp me through the phone number on the screen. We're going to go straight to a class for the day. So I'm just going to go down to the session. Okay, so we have our class for the day. Sorry, this is another topic. Let's go down. Okay, posting vendor invoices. Now, basically, during your business processes or your business process, we have a very important partner, which is called the vendors. In our previous video, we have talked about the vendor master data. It carries all the basic information about this vendor, about this partner. In this session, we're going to be looking at posting vendor invoices. Now, basically, the process of procurement starts with a lot of course, what we call P2P, the procure to pay processes. Most of those activities happen in the materials management side of SAP. However, there are some activities that might not need to go through the MM module, but might be advised to go through the FI side. So in SAP Finance, we have a document that is used to enter post-vendor invoices that is not actually related to the MM activities. So this could be basically procurement of small transactions within the organization. So basically it depends on the business case, but we have the option of creating vendor invoices at the FI side. And, the effect of this is that it doesn't go through the usual procure to pay process, and the postings actually hit straight to your GLs. So please, before you use this invoice, you need to get confirmations from your consultants and your super users or anyone who is responsible to advise you on the right document to use. But however, this training is how to post vendor invoices in SAP FI module. Okay, now basically a vendor invoice is a document from your vendor that actually carries details of your transaction with him. Most likely the name of the vendor, the day, the posting date, the actual service that was performed, and of course, other things like if that invoice is subject to taxes, different kind of taxes, it could be VAT, it could be withholding tax, and all those basic details. So we're going to go through a typical day in the life of a user who wants to actually post a vendor invoice in FI. The transaction code used to actually post a vendor invoice is FB60. Of course, we also have another option to post vendor invoices using the invoice general. but we're going to be focusing on the transaction code FB60 for the day. So we're actually going to go into our SAP system, go through this process step by step. And I hope that by the end of this session, you should have understood just the simple process of posting a vendor invoice. Of course, the first step here is to enter the transaction code FB60, which we are going to do immediately. So I'm in my SAP now. Of course, I've taught you how to navigate through your easy access screen. It's either you type the transaction code FB60 in the command bar, or you save it as favorite. As you can see, it's been already saved. Go to favorites and click on insert transaction, put your FB60, and it's going to be saved. Or you go through the menu path, go to accounting, go to financial accounting, go to accounts payable, go to document entry. Of course, then you have the two routes for which you can post a vendor invoice. The first is FB60, which is like the enjoy screen, while the other, you have to provide the posting keys yourself. So let's go into how to create a vendor invoice using FB60. I'm actually going to display these two options so that you can see the difference. Then we're going to concentrate on the transaction code we wish to use for this class. Okay, so I'm just going to double click on FB60 using the menu path. Okay, so I'm going to go to a new screen. I've also taught you how to use your bars. So you go to your menu bar, click on create new session, new screens. So we can actually go use the next transaction code to create the next invoice. Follow the menu path, F-43. Can do this by typing this here. So we're actually going to display the two invoices so you can see the difference. Okay, the enjoy screen, it's called the enjoy screen because some of the functions are already created for you. So the major difference is that with using the FV60, the system does the basic debit and credit functions for you. The header data carries the credit side, while this line item carries the debit side. And of course, that's already giving you that by default. However, in the general, after providing the header information, you need to provide the accounts and the posting keys for which you're going to use to post these transactions. In later training, we're going to look at the concept of posting keys. Just stay tuned. 31 here means credit vendor. So you will have to select the vendor account, unlike your enjoy screen where these details are already available for you to just pick. So I believe from different users, they prefer this screen. However, this is just to show you that you have two options or two ways of creating your vendor invoice. All right, the next thing you need, we're going to focus on the FB60 screen. The next thing you do is to confirm the company code for which you want to post this transaction. However, it's asking us to provide this basic information first. So I'm going to select the vendor account, select the posting dates, select the invoice dates, select the posting dates. Okay, now the invoice date is the date on the vendor invoice, very important. The posting date is the date you're actually making these postings in SAP. So it's important you take note of that. So click on enter. Of course, when you see a yellow button, it means warning. Just trying to tell me that there's some information that are in the past, which is fine by me. So enter text, let's just say services. Of course, when you get a a red sign as a warning or as a caution, it means you can't proceed in SAP without sorting out what the issue is. So without this, without providing a text, you can see that it's giving me a no show. Item text is required. In my configuration for vendor invoices, I've told the system that text is a required field. So I will not proceed until I actually provide a text for this vendor invoice. So select text, click on enter to validate. Okay, so you can go to the reference. Reference most times, in most cases, is the vendor invoice number. So I can just say this as an invoice number. Special GL indicators are things like your down payments and all that. I'm not actually using that field. So enter your amount for this invoice, 40,000. You can also confirm your currency. This is USD. If this invoice is subject to withholding tax, which is not, first of all, subject to VAT, you can actually select any of those options. If it's subject to withholding tax, we can actually do that in if the vendor master data has been assigned a withholding tax process or formulas or assigned a withholding tax configuration in the vendor master data, then it's automatically going to reflect on your invoice. But if you have not assigned a withholding tax on the vendor master data, then your invoice will not be required. So go to GL, like I said, select any GL, confirm the amount, the line item. We're not actually, this is not vatable, so it's fine. You need to get a cost center. Cost center will is used basically for reporting purposes. If you want to actually apportion cost to different departments and run a report later to see how each department fares according to the cost apportion to them, then it's necessary to assign a cost center. Also, some GLs need cost centers as a requirement. So, write the cost center if it's required, click on enter. So enter will try to check that every required entry is actually done. It's fine. When it's done, it's going to tick the line item as okay, and it's actually going to provide you with a zero balance and with a green, which means you can go ahead. Okay, so this is actually, you can see the payment terms, you can see the baseline date from which to start computing the payment term, from which to start deriving its payment terms. So you can go to the tab payment. In payment, you can see other information, payment information. If the payment currency is different from the invoice currency, you can actually indicate here the currency for payment. You can also indicate the payment method you also use to make payment for this invoice. You can actually add a discount. We have payment terms that has been assigned at the master data level for this vendor. You have the workflow functions or options. You can actually block this invoice for payment. Other options you have. If you block, it means you want this invoice to go through some kind of workflow approval process. So it's free for payment. And of course, you cannot make any payments for any invoice that is blocked. So go to details. You can see the header text. You can see the GL, the sub GL that will be used for reconciliation purposes. You can go to tax here. If you had selected a tax at the basic data, I would have brought out the tax code. And of course, tell you that this transaction is subject to tax. Then you have notes. And make any notes for this. Say, then you can view the local currency and of course the group currency for this transaction. So we have an exchange rate with euro So you can see the euro portion of this transaction. So if you're done, we're going to talk about the concept of packing and holding also in our next session. So just stay tuned. We're going to go to simulate to actually check the postings behind the scene and to make sure that the correct postings are actually done to the right GLs. Depending on your display screen, I have two items. Automatically, the system produces the posting keys. Have the accounts that are affected, have the description. So, of course, the negative value means that my vendor is credited, increasing liability. And I have the expense being debited, increasing in expense. So, if you're done with this, you can go to the post button. You can actually save this as a variant. You can pack this. You can click as complete and come back later. All this will be discussed in previous sessions. So let's click on post. So in SAP, all your documents are assigned numbers, document numbers, what we call number ranges. So I would expect that after posting this transaction should be able to generate a document number for me, which I can use to track the transaction at a later date. So my document number is 12. Okay, so let's look at other follow-on activities to posting the vendor invoice, which is very, very important for end users who need to somehow go back to these documents in different forms. So the first we're going to look at is after saving this document, we have the option. If you go to documents, you have two options here. You can change this document or you can display this document. However, if you have left this screen, the transaction code to display a document is FB02. You can display any document as long as that document has a document number FB02. And you can display with FB03. You can change with FB02. So since I just saved it and it's still here, so I'm just going to click on change. You can see when we posted this transaction, it went straight to the GLs. The procure to pay process, we go through some kind of quotes, purchase orders, goods received, which is Migo, go to Myro, that's invoice verification before you go to and do your vendor payments and all that. The FI, just every 60, go straight and hit the GLs and credit the vendor. So we have actually clicked the change button, and you can see here that it means FP02. So you can drill down into this report, just double click on the line, and you can see what you have access to change. You don't have access to change the header details, but you can change some of the line items. Baseline dates, payment block, payment currency, method, text. So you can make changes to these activities. Also, just at the top, you have the call up document overview, which is basically to show the document in the general ledger form, in ledger form, basically what has been posted. So we have cost center, we have segment, we have profit center. Okay, the next is if you go check this part, which is called the display document header. This is very important as it will explain the document type, the reference number, which is the invoice number, the reference key, which is from your account assignment, the entered by, the entry date, and every other information that is key to really understanding the origin of this invoice. So it's necessary you can also display currency both in document currency, in local currency, in group currency. So if I go to hard currency, I'm going to see, let's go this group currency. So it's going to show me this transaction in euro because the configuration I've had a group currency in euro. Okay, so basically, if you go to documents, you can go back. If you make any changes, you save. You can go back, go to display. You can also display the document. In the display mode, you cannot actually edit or make any changes. And the transaction code is FP03. Display mode, you can also see the different views. We have line item view, and we have the general ledger view. You can view this transaction in the general ledger view. Basically get to understand how this account will posted. So you can see the GLs, that's why it's called the general ledger views. Instead of seeing the vendor account now, you're actually seeing the GL account for payables. This is actually viewing the general ledger view, and the next is the entry view, most likely. You have other ledgers, the leading ledgers, every other ledger you want to check, depending on your configurations anyway. Okay. So we're going to go back. Okay, I'm still going to go and display this document. I also want to talk to you about the services for object. Now, if you in some business processes, you might be asked to attach documents for this particular invoice to show that before it's actually approved, a workflow process might have been set up for this document to be attached, to be viewed and checked before it's been approved actually. So to do that, you go to your services for objects, click this little drop down, and you're going to see two functions. The first is for your attaching of documents, and the second is for your workflow. So you can create an attachment and attach documents to your invoice. You can check the workflow. Workflow actually talks about the approval processes. So you can see who is supposed to approve if you have this configuration done in your business processes. If it's part of your business process, you can actually go through this area, or your consultants are actually going to advise you on how to navigate through your workflow processes. Okay, you can view the attachment for this particular invoice. And so basically, this is how you post transactions, vendor invoices in SAP FI. In our next video, so you can view the steps. The second step is actually to enter the various details. Okay, you have the top step, entering payments, then you have the document structure for your invoice, header document, and line items. Okay, so thank you very much for finding time to go through our videos. Kindly visit our YouTube channel, kindly subscribe, share. I mean, we are our goal is actually to share knowledge. So please help us share and subscribe. And if you require any kind of support or training, why not? You can reach us through our various emails and phone numbers. All right, thank you very much for another time with you. In our next session, we are actually going to be looking at manual payments for vendors. Also, you can see the chart view of vendor transactions from different processes. So we're going to look at payments, how do we pay for invoices that were created manually, and of course automatic payment, which is F10. We'll actually see that in another session. How do we pay invoices? How do we do clearing? And the next, we're going to look at line item, look at how to analyze line item for vendors. Subsequently, we're going to look at the general ledger. So we have a lot in stock for you. Stay tuned to our channel and, reach us anytime, and do have a lovely view. Have a nice day. Thank you.